This is a Balls.ie podcast. Subscribe on iTunes and SoundCloud at Balls.ie.
Today's Hard Shoulder podcast on Balls.ie is brought to you by King Crisps. As part of their King of the Hill campaign, we have Dublin star Bernard Brogan on site and ready to give his insights for the summer ahead, fresh off the back of his Leinster final victory on Sunday.
A grain of rice is going to tip the scale, but you'll have to get steely tough upstairs, and you must be willing to fucking break your gut.
I've no comment to make on anything.
Tell the children to play tennis or something.
Joe, you haven't lived in the real world.
What's this about Galway only having one forward?
It's fucking bullshit. It's in yourselves. Sorry.
And it's Tommy Down has got it right through the heart of Bowley. I don't believe it. Bowley has scored. They're level.
So welcome everybody to the return of the Hard Shoulder, Balls.ie weekly GAA podcast with myself, Anthony Moyles. Every Tuesday for the rest of the GAA season, we'll be bringing you the big interviews with arguably some of the biggest names in the game. Today we decided to kick it off in style, and we have probably one of the greatest players that has played in the last 10-15 years with us today. A former Footballer of the Year, 4 times All-Star, 3-time All-Ireland champion, and now 10-time Leinster champion, Bernard Brogan will join us. Later on we'll be going through some of the stories of the week with Conor Neville, and I'm delighted to say that I have my old adversary and former sparring partner and now management guru, Niall Kelly. Sweets Kelly.
Tony, how are you?
I'm good, Sweets, and yourself?
I'm all right. I'm delighted to be back here. There was a lot of talk early summer that we wouldn't get the trip. There was talk of Zika, WADA, USADA, UFC, RTE. We've consulted them all, and we're happy to travel to Rio.
Yeah, the podcast is kind of, the GA podcast. It's alive and growing.
Yeah.
I think we're safe to say that we laid the path.
You're the Tenzing Norgay of the podcast world, Muzzy.
Yeah.
You brought Hillary up the mountain.
Well, look, it's all Balls.ie. I have to say, to be fair, it's we're just pawns, but it's good to be here. Like, yeah. I mean, the start of the season, it isn't really the start of the season. Now is the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, look, every second year there's obviously an Olympics or a World Cup or a Euros, and obviously with Ireland involved in the Euros and whatnot, that really captured the imagination over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And there's been a bit of, let's just say, housekeeping to be done with regards to the provincial championship and the earlier rounds of the back door. But now it's GAA full tilt, and we're coming to the business end of the season in both codes, obviously particularly in Gaelic, but hurling as well. But it's really now going to be all action, and games are going to come thick and fast, which is I think what most guys want, most fans of the game are looking for. These long pauses of 2, 3, 4 weeks between matches, between seeing their teams out, it can be hard to get a momentum going. But now with the provincials pretty much dealt with, it's full tilt now, back doors, and some big names are now going to start exiting the championship, and more importantly, big games are going to be played between Division 1 teams who would have real designs on winning the All-Ireland. So it's going to be great. Yeah,
really looking forward to it. So I think without further ado, we'll get to our chat with Bernard Brogan.
Yeah, bring it on.
Bernard, great to have you in, and thanks very much for coming in on the warmest day of the year, actually, as a matter of fact. You're looking
sweating here.
Yeah. Is that from the celebrations or?
No, we celebrate it. You have to celebrate your wins. They don't come around every day, and sport is fickle, as you know. So every time you lift a bit of silverware, you have to enjoy it and celebrate it. I actually remember reading Johnny Wilkinson's books. His first book was about how he went kicking straight after the World Cup final and all this type of stuff. And his second book was then saying how he regretted not celebrating his wins. That he thought he was going to have 10 years of winning all around him, and he got injured, and he didn't get a career that he would have liked. He did all right, but he didn't. He learned to celebrate your win. So I'm a firm believer in going out for a pint and celebrating with your teammates.
Absolutely, and it's 10 Leinsters now. It's some feast, it's
actually
remarkable.
11, but I played in 8.
Okay.
2005, I came onto the panel in 2004, and I didn't play for the first 2 years. I made my debut in 2007, but I was there in 5 and 6.
Okay,
battling away, trying to win the heart of Pillar Caffrey.
You'd be like one of those war veterans with your medals right across your shoulder.
Yeah, I wear them with pride. Yeah.
Big shoulders, to be fair. You're gonna need it.
Lots of medals.
You see Dermot Earley with his army uniform. Do you ever see him at the All Stars and he has to wear the army black tie gear? The medals and the chest. You
have to do the hard time in the crowd though, so you can't.
I don't know if I'd be able for that.
You can't just rock up there in the old.
You have to earn those ones, don't you?
Yeah.
No, it's like, I mean, you look back on it. We've obviously played together, club. We've played against each other, obviously in the county scene, and like the last number of years have been obviously a remarkable journey for Dublin. But the last kind of time, I suppose, where I can kind of relate to where we played, say, on the same field in Croke Park, was 2010. Yeah. Not to bring it back to that straight away.
Moilesy's just fired his one bullet.
It's early in the conversation.
Straight between the eyes.
I'm done here now, so enough of your medal stuff. What about the 5 goals?
That was tough day.
It's funny because you look back in that game. That game was seriously in the melting pot that day. I think I remember either we had got a goal. I think Paul Flynn rattled one off the crossbar just after it, and it would have brought it back either level, I think, or you boys behind by a point. Yeah. I think as the ball came out, it literally went up the field, and we got another goal. Yeah. So, and then it kind of just, it was kind of very strange ending to the game, and I remember being very worried after the game, thinking, well, that wasn't that result. Like the defeat wasn't as large as it should have been, and also you boys were I just felt that in that period, it just something happened. But arguably, it was the start of Meath's descent. Yeah. And it was kind of the start of your kind of ascent, as from a panel. So Gilroy was obviously the main man there. Like, did he address it? Did things change after that? Yeah,
it was a massive learning for us. We cruised through Leinster a couple of years before that with big victories, and probably were a little bit cocky. We learned a couple of tough lessons from Tyrone and Meath in 2008 and 2009. But then that game against yourselves, with 5 goals, a lot of them started from mistakes from ourselves. And you punished us that day, so we learned a lot of lessons from that and kind of drove on. And Pat is a very, very sharp operator, and he kind of drove us on, and kind of those few lessons we learned, and we were clued in coming into the run, the qualifiers, and actually did us a world of good. We played 4 weeks on the trot. We got momentum, we got some good football played, and that built us on. We were beaten narrowly by Cork in the end, but that was a real catalyst to driving that Dublin team on.
Like, it was a catalyst as much for yourself personally. Like, I mean, you ended up Player of the Year that year, correct?
Yeah.
I just wanted to check my stats there because I'm already wrong on one. But Player of the Year after essentially, not winning a Leinster and not winning an All Ireland. Like, that's a fair achievement. That's a big achievement for a player. If you like, I mean, it is. So, like, I mean, did personally something, because you say that a lot of the goals came from mistakes. Like, I mean, look, we've all been there, and you're doing that video analysis and you're kind of cringing because you see yourself stop working or whatever it is. Like, was that one of the things where you say he drove it on? Did he kind of say, listen, fellas, we have to change the way we're operating, not necessarily playing, but the way we're actually working, and that massive work ethos that's there and has been there in Dublin the last few years?
Yeah, and he probably, I had a great year that year, but that was from Pat kind of breaking me down and kind of wanting me to lead. When your corner forward is working hard or trying to work hard, that permutates through the team. When your cornerback sees your corner forward, or whoever's your so-called marquee forward, free taker, in trying to get tackles or working hard for a team, it gives the rest of the team energy, and that's something that I wasn't renowned for prior to that year, but something that I worked really hard on, and Pat drove down my throat all year. But again, it was everyone as well, but it was something that I kind of really took out of it, because I had so much that I could have to gain, I suppose. And he just came at us with it and kept it going, and we just wanted to work hard and just doing the simple things right worked for us, and when you work hard in games, things happen for you, and it's something that I try and do all the time. Is like, I'm not the best tackler in the world, but one of the greatest engine. I'm not allowed to run around like Flynn or Dermo or these lads, but when you work hard, you get the rewards for them, and sometimes there's no other substitute than just going out there, chasing your man down, trying to get into space and just running hard, and then when you're knackered, you put the hand up and next man up,
And what I mean, you say that was kind of like an inflection point, say that 2010 Leinster, but I mean, there's a nice steady progress from a Dublin perspective. Like, you won a couple of Leinsters under Pillar, not necessarily you personally, but you did win a couple, but the team itself. Then Gilroy comes in, having won an All Ireland with Vincent, so obviously you guys sat up and looked at him as someone that you could look to and say, this guy actually knows his stuff, and he's walked the walk, both as a player and indeed more recently then as a manager. He went then, subsequently won a couple of Leinsters, but then you started to have an impact at the national level. You've obviously won your first All-Ireland. But even then, when you look at your success now with Gavin, and it's not blowing smoke, but now you've won more Leinsters again, but you're making an imprint into the league and All-Irelands. I mean, there's a definitive improvement across those three managers. Like what you spoke about the work, but work brings fatigue and mental fatigue, and the body starts to let you down. But how can you point, or what can you point in the panel that sort of says this is sustained, and not only is it sustained, but it's been improved upon?
I think it's with good management and the influx of kind of quality players from underage structures, and it's a bit of a cliche to say that you develop your youth to get your teams, but the Dublin County Board invested about 10 or 15 years ago in the youth development squads. Stephen O'Shaughnessy, who played cornerback with us, runs it. But I was actually had a point last night with Declan Lally, a good pal of mine who would have played with the Dubs and plays with the club with me, and he goes out on Sunday mornings with Paul Griffin, David Henry, Jason Sherlock's involved to a lesser extent now. He's with the seniors, he doesn't have much time, but that's the management team at under 14. Collie Moran does it at another age with Wheelo. Paddy Christie was involved obviously now. Desi came through. Jim Gavin came through with the under 21s. These are all players that kids look up to. They're watching on Croke Park and they're looking at them winning All Irelands or whatever they did in their game, and they're going back to give their time. And people talk about Dublin and money and all this investment. The real difference is the lads that go back and invest their time and nurture the youth, and they don't bring 15 lads up through a development squad like a lot of counties would, or even when I was back there, it was kind of 15, 20 lads at underage, and you're either in the mix or you're not. The big clubs have a lot of players involved, and now it's like they carry like 100 guys for as long as they can. Like right. the under 14s have a north side and a south side, and they do an hour on 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and then they do like a 10:30 on the north side, so they can get more numbers in, and they try and carry them to. Obviously you have to get competitive at some stage, and there's a lot of learnings you can get from being dropped off a team. Like I learned my best kind of learnings were when I was under pressure, when I lost my place, when I wasn't getting my game, when I thought I was good enough. That's when you learn the most about yourself. And all these kids, only so many can play, but the more you nurture and bring with you for as long as you can, the more you'll have the higher percentage you'll have of good players coming through. And in 2010, when we had, I think it was Rory O'Carroll, Keane O'Sullivan, a couple of players like that came through under 21 success, and you had like Kieran Kilkenny, you had Jack McCaffrey, you had all these lads that hadn't been beaten by Tyrone or Kerry, or had the kind of emotional baggage that, let's say, Alan and Barry Cahill and J.O. and even me to a lesser extent through my career, that we believe we were going to be able to beat these teams. You always go out there and you think, well, these lads were coming from under 21 success with Jim and with Desi Farrell and that type of stuff, and they're just like, yeah, let's go. They come into the setup and they're straight into it. Like Conor Callahan comes in this year and he just steps in. It's like he's there 10 years, he's in training, he's putting himself about, he wants to be there, he's confident, he wants to get on the ball, and there's loads of examples like that of players that are just, the structures that they brought them through, they're just so comfortable coming into it. Like when I came into Dublin, it was like, oh my God, I'm training with heroes here, and it took me probably 2 years to get the head right. These guys are just tuned in from the off, and makes a massive difference.
That's kind of like maybe the corporate structure of Dublin. Like they're doing all the correct things to make it not just a coincidence, but a probability that they have success. But as a player, so you're sitting in the dressing room and you're assessing managers and whatnot. But how have you sensed, like, from Pillar to Gilroy, then on to Gavin? I mean, they're obviously all operating at really high levels, but there has been that change, and change for the better from the Dubs perspective. What would you point at? What could you pinpoint that to anything in particular, or?
I think it's just the respect that the players had. I think Pillar was a great manager, and then Pat came in, and he's, as you said, he was coming off success with All Ireland with Vincent's. He's a very successful businessman. He was a guy that's a character. Everyone kind of liked him, got on with him. He'd sit down and have a pint with you, and he'd scold you the next day. He was just a good operator, and people buy into that, and people respect it. Good leadership. And it was down to that. Jim Gavin is came through a very successful period under 21s, winning a couple of All Irelands with them, and army background, diligent, attention to detail, just a good leader. And it's. You can have all the players in the world, but it needs to be led from the top, and a lot of the times, even under Pat and Jim now, like, they want to get players to be involved. the Dublin players and all inter-county players are experts in what they do because we train ourselves. And our voice is just as important as a manager's voice. But yeah, you do have to have someone to make the calls at the end of the day. But an environment that people can talk and share their ideas and it's listened to, and this might be something good, and that's the environment you need, So
it's a very positive environment, because most setups are not a kind of a dictatorship, but the manager and the management team, and then one or two kind of leaders within the squad would kind of dictate to the rest of the fellas. And obviously, if you're reaching that point with Dublin, that's a massive thing. But just to go back, you mentioned underage and kids coming through. Like, I mean, you kind of watched Alan, I suppose, underage, win a lot of stuff with Dublin. And much like myself, you never played minor, you never played under 21, and from a personal point of view, I remember thinking to myself when I hit kind of 2021, really thinking, do I really want this, kind of thing. And a seminal moment kind of came for me where it was like, look, you are actually kind of good enough to go and do this, so you have to actually invest the time. You have to stop what I was doing, which was kind of not really taking it that serious. For yourself, coming back from the cruciate, and being of the Brogan family and everything that goes with that, like, how much work and what did you have to really, sacrifice to get to where you were, as to go into that panel first of all, and as you say, play with heroes, but then to actually become the player that you became within that panel, and then to essentially go and be player of the year, etc., etc. Because a cruciate is not an easy thing to get over, be it physically or mentally.
Yeah, I did me cruciate when I was 20, so we all know the disaster it is. So I was out for that year. I came back, but I suppose Alan been there and Alan playing, and I've been watching him. He did all the underage, did the minor, won Leinster's, beaten by Down all Ireland semi-final or final, minor, scoring goals, come in, under 21, was the hero, captain of the under 21s. I actually was on the panel that year. They won the under 21s. I didn't play, but won the All Ireland. So I was just watching Alan just progress in his career. He started out with Dublin in 2002, won an All-Star, like all this type of stuff. It was phenomenal. And I was like, if he wasn't there, would I've got to where I am? Probably not, because I probably would have thrown the towel. And as you say, it's so hard. And I came into the team. I was there for 2.5 years before I made my debut. I played bits and pieces of the league and stuff like that. And
did you ever, any time during that, think this is just too much of a stretch? Because look, we've all had those dark nights. You go home, you go, what am I doing here? I'm doing everything right, as you say, but you're still not. But you're doing everything right in your head, but you're still not being picked. They're tough battles to have.
Yeah, definitely. There was times when, I suppose my belief in myself, I believed that I was good enough to play there, and I was able to perform in that. I was playing good football with the club. I suppose the guys that I had around me, travelling to training with Sen and Connell and J.O. and Alan and Barry Cahill and these lads, they were so close. I knew them so well. Made it a lot easier than if I had been just someone from the Knoll when I was coming in, travelling in on my own 40 minutes every day to train, getting looking for a few expenses for the old. It might have been a bit different, but I had a really good group of lads around and guys to look up to, and they were always there to whenever you were feeling down, they'd say, you're moving well, you're going the right direction, not pick this time, don't worry about it, your time will come. And I just went out and I just worked harder than even today. I'm not naturally gifted at football. I work hard at what I do, and my strike, and if I lay back and don't practice my kicking, it goes off and my percentages go down. I have to go out and kick balls. I have to kick 50 balls twice a week or 3 times a week to make sure that I'm sharp and come match day. If I rest on my laurels and just kind of go through the motions, that's why in 2010 I played my best football, because I was playing week in, week out. We're playing football, and that's how you become good. So it's something that I learned. I had to work harder than the other people that were out there. So we all trained 3 or 4 or 5 times a week with Inter-County, but I had to do more because what I was doing wasn't enough. So I went out on my own with a bag of balls, start practicing my frees, practicing my shooting and stuff like that, knowing that I will get a chance at some stage and that you have to take it. So that's what I did. I just said I'd have to work hard. I wasn't like Alan was just naturally from the off, had legs, pace, power, and he was very accurate. I had to just do something a bit different. So I went out and just practiced harder than everyone else, and became very sharp front of goal. But still to this day, if I take a couple of weeks off or I'm carrying a niggle, I struggle in Croke Park or wherever I am in the league. So keeping fit and keeping well for me is really important. So as a striker or someone who takes scores, you need to have the ball in your hands. You need to practice, you know, and there's no substitute for it. Like,
just on that as well, though, obviously, you know, Dublin, there seems to be a peak and trough in the Dublin season, and it's not your fault. Leinster has obviously weakened relative to the performance Dublin's are putting in, but, you know, in league, you peak mid to late spring with the league, and now you have this big hiatus where you're playing matches, but I mean, Sunday Dublin against Westmeath didn't have any of the intensity versus, say, Donegal against Tyrone, certainly from the couch anyway. Having said all that,
I want to be out there in the sunshine. I nearly died a few times.
The handkerchief on the owl ball patch. But keeping that, and you're talking about the regularity of practicing those core skills, and indeed, you know, if you don't have it coming out of the tips of your fingers like your brother Alan or, you know, Graham Garrity would have been like that, you know, he could just turn his hand to it and instantly was a master at it. That's obviously very difficult for you and for the rest of the Dublin panel to deal with these long drags where in provincials you're getting if you win in your provincial championship, you're getting a 2 to 3 week break between the next game, which is natural enough, but within that, Leinster hasn't provided enough of a competition, I would feel, for Dublin to maybe either experiment or be tested with the back door. That's obviously very, very difficult now, where you're effectively condensing an All-Ireland season into, from your perspective, until the 3rd Sunday of September, hopefully, but, you know, over a 6 or 8 week period. That's obviously a huge challenge, but you're saying it actually nearly feeds into you by playing football regularly, by, you know, being on it as such. Yeah,
you need to be playing football, and we have some really intensive A versus Bs or in training matches, and like the lads and selection of our line and lads who don't get the luck to play and in starting 15, the lads who come off the bench, the lads who are even left at home that aren't in the 26, like there's a phenomenal group of players there. Like you look at the line the last day, like the likes of Owen O'Gara wasn't even used, you know, like who would have been very disappointed.
He looked very happy about that after the
game. such a phenomenal footballer, you know. You've like Paddy Andrews come off the bench kicking points, Conor Callaghan stepping up, coming in, and there's so many good players coming in off the bench. Darren Daly, you know, there's this quality all over the pitch. So like that's what's really drove us on, and those games that we have, they're so competitive, and we would always we all know the talk of the Kilkenny training games. They're like an All-Ireland final every week, you know, and that's what you need. You need to have the competition in the team to drive on, because like when we're training and we've 3 weeks to the game. The next game, we'll have a training match this weekend, and maybe a bit of one next weekend, and there'll be lads fighting for their places, and there'll be a match day intensity in DCU or wherever the matches we played, and that's what you need. You need lads driving each other on. You need lads and that comes from management as well, about the manager playing people on form. And if your team believes, or a young fella believes, if I play well I can get into this team, then he's going to break himself to play well in training, and that'll drive on the fella who's wearing the jersey, that this fella's chasing me down. Now I'm going to have to perform in training, and that just drives. It's just like a never-ending cycle. And if you have these young lads that come up and they're given this opportunity to say, you get out there and you play ball and we'll reward you with the jersey, and you'll get game time, that's a great thing to be able to do. And there's some managers and some teams that you know you're 15 and there's no way of getting into it. You know the 3 or 4 subs that are coming on, but in our setup, it's whoever's playing ball gets the jersey. You know.
Question for you, nice little tricky one to end on. If you were born in a different county, let's say you were born in one of the weaker counties, with ourselves in on that mix down Moose Street.
If you're born in Navan,
if you're born 10 minutes up the road, like, would you still be putting in everything that you're putting in? You know, because obviously as a Dublin player, you look to now 3rd week of September. That's your ultimate goal. Yeah. Whereas probably for 30 other counties, certainly 29, 28, that's a pipe dream. You know.
Well,
what drives you?
Like in 2004, when I came on, when I wasn't playing, when Dublin weren't even winning Leinsters, like I wanted to play for Dublin because my dad played for Dublin, because I played for my club, and you represent your parish and your community and your family and all this stuff. Like my family go down to my aunties on Connacht Street down in Fitzborough after every game and they have a barbecue, and and it's just like the best crack ever. There's 50 of them there having a few drinks, having a crack, and it's nearly like a ritual. You know, that's what the GA is about. Like you play, and I'm out there, and they come down, and they're filled with pride. And me, Alan, and Paul were there in 2011, and James is there in 2011. 4 Brogans in Croke Park on our Ireland final day in 2011. You know, and I come back, and they tell us about the stories. And Alan now was saying, I'm looking forward to getting down to the picnic and the barbecue, and that's it just becomes a part of life, you know. And like if I never won a game, I would want to play for Dublin and put on the blue jersey. And there'll be a time when Dublin don't get hammered all the time, you know. The sport is in cycles, you know, and teams will rise, teams will come up and down in form. We've just been lucky over the last number of years to get some silverware and to do well, you know. But our time will end soon enough. But if I'm still around, or whoever's there, I know they'll fight tooth and nail to get back to where we've been lucky enough to get in the last number of years. And as I say, in 2006, 7, 8, we won some silverware, in Leinster, but we were beaten very badly. But we came back every year and gave it just as hard or more probably than the year before. 2010, same again. We let down in the Ireland semi-final. We should have won. But no, we came back in 2011 with everything we had and got over the line eventually. So I definitely like the going out into Croke Park, or the pride of wearing your county jersey is reward enough for me.
Well, good stuff. Well, look, best of luck with the year ahead. You know, onwards and upwards. I hope you do it. Hope you finally get the old club hoodoo as well. Hopefully that might happen. You know, it's been there's been some close ones.
I know, we're all getting a bit old now. Yeah, you're gone long retired now.
Yeah, good up, Nesty
still going. Yeah.
Paul Griffin has just cooled down from the roasting you gave him that time when Croke's fit.
No, look. So before we let you go, this year what we're trying to do is we were bringing in one of our specialists,
crack team.
Yeah, crack team. Magnuson, Conor Neville is going to join us, and basically he's going to we're going to do a little quiz with everyone that comes in. So
Bernard's the guinea pig here.
Yeah,
it's like a Russian Olympic athlete.
yeah.
Don't go there.
Anyway, let's do it.
Hello and welcome to the Balls.ie GA Mastermind quiz. Our contestant is in the chair. Can you state your name, please?
Bernard Brogan.
Bernard Brogan, your specialist subject that we have chosen for you is county grounds that aren't Croke Park.
Oh God.
P.S. We are aware that Croke Park isn't a county ground technically, but however. Bernard, are you ready?
Yes.
Number 1. What is the official full name of Wexford's home ground?
Pass.
Any ideas? Anthony, do you know?
Cusack Park.
Innovate Wexford Park.
Oh God.
I was joking there, by the way.
Where did Galway play their home games before they moved to Salt Hill?
Pearse Park.
No, that's Longford. Tuam Stadium. Number 3. Name the ground that was purchased by the GAA in 1989 that was formerly a League of Ireland ground and previously held the 1973 FAI Cup final replay.
Parky Ring.
Correct. Number 4.
Thank God.
Thank God. Before this summer, where and when was Dublin's last championship game outside of Croke Park? Give me the year. Give me the year as well.
2006.
Correct.
I was on the bench that day. Beautiful day. The sun was shining. Bonnie got us the goal. Saved our bacon.
Final question. If you arrive at Hyde Park for a league match and find that the pitch isn't suitable for football, what's the next step?
Bog snorkeling.
Exactly.
That's not the answer I've written down, but we're going to accept it as the correct answer. Congratulations, Bernard Brogan. You scored 3 out of 5.
Not bad.
Happy enough.
Not bad. That's actually, that's quite
Since
good.
I've only played outside Croke Park once.
Yeah.
It was better than I thought it would be, I have to say. You were the guinea pig there now for that.
Very impressive.
Experiment.
Very impressive. Yeah, well done. Well done. But do we have a prize for that? Or are we going? We'll
Just
cut it up at the end of the season.
We've a Balls.ie cuckoo clock or something. I don't know. Can we get one of those? Packet of King crisps, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, that'll do.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Bernard. Sorry for putting you through that at the end. You were sweating at the start. You're sweating even more
Sweating
now.
coming in, sweating leaving. Man, thanks, Anthony.
No, it was good. And as I said, best of luck, and go lift another one.
Please God. Talk to you soon, lads.
Cheers. So that was Bernard Brogan, and I think that was a great interview. Looking forward to having plenty of those types of interviews now over the summer.
Super, top man.
Great insight.
Friend of Balls.ie.
Absolutely, and I think, to be fair, for 2-day celebrations, he looked
sprightly.
Pretty well. Yeah,
sprightly.
Looked sprightly. Conor Neville is still here with us. So
Dublin celebrations after Leinster can't be too raucous now, can they?
Well, you see, I don't think it's even the thing of the Leinster. I think it's just the fact that they actually get out for a beer now. So if you've been on the drive for 4 or 5 months, you're probably going to celebrate regardless.
Yeah, there's an element of deliverance there. The boys getting out of the town, a couple of cold ones.
So what did you think, Conor? What caught your eye the weekend?
What caught my eye? Well, I'm just here to bring the stories from Balls, obviously, and obviously I don't want to be here to depress everyone by bringing up bleak subjects, but
you're doing a hell of a job with it.
Meath manager Mick O'Dowd. By the way, it seems these days that managers are attacking pundits more than pundits are attacking managers. But anyway,
it's a Darwinian. I mean, it's a response.
Yeah. He's after ripping into the sickening comments of former Meath players turned pundits. Do you know any of those guys?
But I don't think.
Well, he didn't actually name anyone.
No, he didn't name anyone.
No,
strictly
speaking. You're trying to just catch me out there, Conor. I believe
I think
pure speculation.
Yeah, in fairness to Mick, it's obviously raw enough for him, and he's as he said himself, he poured his heart and soul and the whole shebang into it, and came up short, and probably the team has regressed, not progressed under his watch. But I mean, he's raw. He's a week out from losing it, and you can hear in his voice, and we can hear it now.
But I don't think people realise the work that goes into it either. I've just invested my heart and soul in the job because I love Meath so much as a volunteer. And to be honest with you, there's a bit of a culture in the GA now where you have these overpaid, inflated egos acting as pundits that are just ripping decent people in the GA apart, And I just hope the next Meath management the very best of luck with the players, to be honest.
You have a lot of former players who are pundits as well.
Yeah, you have some, yeah, all right, yeah, but I'm talking about in general. It seems to be a culture that's taken over. There's maybe it's society. There's a lack of respect, I think, for people and their work and their effort, But that's nothing I can change.
Interesting interview. I think
he's hurting there. He's hurting there.
He is hurting. And it's you know what, you put a microphone in someone's face after a loss, and they were again, probably Micko, he was under pressure this year. He was under massive pressure because the writing was probably on the wall from at the start of the year, and I'd say he felt it. And if a manager's feeling it, it kind of permeates throughout the whole setup, and the players feel it. And you're under. You can sense a kind of a foreboding situation. And to get over that psychologically is massive. Never mind physically, but to get over that, and then when you have a powerhouse, obviously like Dublin, who are sitting there in your province, and then to get kind of knocked out of it. And then all of a sudden to play Derry, up in Derry, tricky enough game. We've seen what obviously Derry did, against Cavan and stuff like that. I feel a bit sorry for Micko, but
that's the way it's gone. Look what Donegal have to deal with. Jim McGuinness, the master of the game, is writing in one of the largest dailies, providing critical analysis of their performance. Tomás O'Shea on the Sunday game. I know he probably hasn't had the opportunity to cut into Kerry, but that's just the way of it. Unfortunately, they're going to have to live with that and learn to navigate it and get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think pundits and I think people are actually demanding that. I don't think the actual spectator now of the Sunday game or the watcher on, even if it is social media, wants to see fellas saying, well, look, we all did our best, and we're all and just kind of say, well, it doesn't make it real. People are entitled to obviously their opinion as fans, and then if people are going to write articles, they can't get wishy-washy about it because that's not going to sell newspapers. So as a manager, you're going to have to expect that half of this is going to come at you, and half of it is born out of. It's not personal. I don't think. I think it's probably to sell newspapers, to get a reaction, and to be honest with you, I think Miko was hurting. I think if you probably asked Miko today, he'd do what Kevin Walsh said and just say, listen, I don't read it, it doesn't bother me, and I just move on.
A common thread seems to be discussion of Meath's abysmal second half record. They've put together sort of nine second half losses in a row.
Yeah, it's been a far cry from what Meath were known as and were the kind of strengths that they had. But it's an endemic, and since the Westmeath situation, I think psychologically that has kind of impacted that group of players, and maybe the thing is, well, it is going to happen now, is that you need a new man in who can come in and say, listen, we need to break that hoodoo.
Yeah, but looking at new men, but one old man stayed the course. I mean, what Mickey Hart has done with that group of players is quite phenomenal up in the north. Sean Kavanagh was going on about 4 or 5 years of a sort of hiatus where they were in the desert of nothing, and all of a sudden they come back and win a barnstormer. It probably wasn't the most beautiful match, but I mean, what about that score from Peter Hart, Sean Kavanagh?
And what a way to win it. Yeah. What a way to win it. Hart's score was just he was actually up off the ground, both feet off the ground when he kicked it. It was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal score. To take the responsibility on, at that time, any other player would probably have gathered it, tried to look inside for a pass. He just got it. As soon as he got it, he was like, "No, I'm going to actually nail this."
It was great. It was great to see because obviously a player of that ability is, it's quite obvious. But he went into the locker and pulled something out in the middle of the battle, right at the death. I mean, Michael Murphy had nailed, a 60-yard free, and Christy Toy had provided another great point, and then all of a sudden, Peter Hart stitches this thing. I mean, it was an absolute missile.
Yeah, as was Kavanagh's. Kavanagh's points under pressure were phenomenal. But you know what? People talk about the provinces and say, we should do away with the provinces. You ask a Tyrone fella or a Galway fella to give it back their medals this morning. Absolutely not a chance.
I was at the Connacht final replay where I witnessed, by the way, a bravura display of traffic beating from the Rossi fans who were streaming out literally 3 minutes into the second half. They were gone. I think it was 2:13 to 6 at one point, and they just a whole raft of them went, and there's still 25 minutes left. But Galway,
they probably could have left 5 minutes before half time. To be fair, they probably just wanted to get the hot dog or whatever was.
But it is very telling. Galway supporters celebrated pretty vigorously afterwards, because Galway in the past, saying that the tail end of the John O'Mahony era, the early noughties, Galway would have won Connacht titles and they barely would have noticed down there, but after 8 years, it was a big milestone.
Absolutely, that shows cycles.
Yeah, and in 2001 when they won, they came through the back door. So Connacht title does have some merit, and obviously Kevin Walsh has come in and he's this is a progress report, and look, they've got a trophy in the locker there, and while probably will come up short in the hunt for Sam, they're building there, and the Rossies, in terms of their anxiety to get out of the ground, they probably recognise that too, in the sense that this was their most realistic chance perhaps of winning some silverware. And it's never nice to see fans leaving early, and it's you should pretty much have a bit of pride, unless you've got some cakes in the oven, you have to go back to. But
how does it affect players on the pitch? Do you ever notice out of the corner of your eye crowds streaming out? That never happened to you when Meath were playing?
Probably happened on a number of occasions. I see my own family members heading off. That's the real worrying part. No, I don't think it shouldn't affect you, because you know what the score is, and Roscommon was all about just saving a bit of pride. At that situation, it's like, listen lads, let's try and win the second half. I know it's an old kind of cliche, but you're going to play another 35 minutes, so you may as well make it as good as you possibly can without getting absolutely trounced.
Yeah.
I have to get a word in on Longford here. I went to Pearse Park. Giddy hopes at half-time, 1-4-3 up. At half-time, my biggest fear, honestly, was whether we'd have the wherewithal to win an All-Ireland semi-final. People were asking, there was much chatter about who we get the next day. Do we want Tip? Do we want Clare? Do we want Derry? That type of thing. Yeah. But it wasn't to be.
Well, you know what? Listen.
Hope springs eternal.
Absolutely. So, folks, listen, that's the end of the podcast for today. Absolutely, it was a great guest, Bernard Brogan. Probably one of our most decorated guests we will have on. But
that's banana.
Napoleonic, you would say.
Yeah, absolutely. But so we'll don't forget, you can subscribe on iTunes. You can subscribe on all Android podcast apps. Please like us, rate us, do exactly what you can. Put the thumbs up. Do everything you can to get us up the charts.
But don't follow us in an unmarked car.
That's you know what? Great piece of advice.
Yeah.
So thank you, and see you next week. See you, sweets.
See you, Tony. Connor.
So that was today's Balls.ie Hard Shoulder podcast, brought to you by King Crisps as part of their King of the Hill campaign. We had Bernard Brogan in today, giving his insights onto last Sunday's Leinster final victory and the look at the year ahead.